everyone. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Daily Racing Form YouTube. I'm Gino Buccola alongside Mike Beer with producer Lucia helping us out for the Sunday race of the day. We're going to head on over and preview the Mockingbird from Oaklawn in just a moment. But before we do, we want to remind you all about the Daily Racing Form New Year's sale. This is happening right now through January the 6th. 15% off when you use the coupon code shop.drf.com. When you use that coupon code new 2026 over at shop.drf.com. Think about the time of the year with Gulfstream, with Santa Anita. A lot of people need help with the clocker reports in those maiden special weight races that are so deep. You can stack up now, save money, the DRF New Year's sale. Let's move over to the Mockingbird. This is going to run as race number 9 on Sunday over at Oaklawn Park. 6 furlongs up for grabs for 3-year-old fillies. Mike, you and I were talking before we started recording. Just had a difficult time with this race, getting a real feel for it. Thought horses like Evolution and Wakuda maybe be towards the front end. You have a horse like Walkaway K, who was second. I thought a fine second in the Astral Spa behind a nice horse named Counting Stars, who just came back and won again most recently. But no real standouts in here.
Yeah, that's how I looked at it too. I mean, I really don't know who the favorite's going to be. I haven't seen a morning line yet. I have no idea who's going favorite in here. It just felt like it was kind of a well-matched field without a standout.
Yeah, and shout out to Oaklawn. Again, early on in the meet, competitive fields, big fields, good opportunities to play. Let's see what Timeform US thinks about how this race will shape up. They've got Evolution up front. And I could see horses like Wakuda, could see even from the inside, Nickel and Dime has shown some sprint speed. You have Grace is Free and Woodstock. They all want to be close. So I could see different combinations of horses like in the mix early on, but I don't know if they're going to be lining up on the lead.
Yeah, I don't either. I feel like I'm going to agree with the pace projector in this sense. I do think the 2 Evolution is fast, and I think if they want this horse to be on the lead, and I'd actually kind of hope that they just sort of send her there.
Me too.
I think she will make the lead race. She's a pretty fast horse.
Let's meet the field for the Mockingbird. $150,000 up for grabs. Race 9 on Sunday over at Oaklawn Park. And remember, it is the Sunday race of the day. You can get free past performances for every race of the day on the website, DRF.com. Nickel and Dime debuted sprinting at Remington Park, just missed that day. Then faced maiden special weights at Keeneland. Didn't have the best of beginnings. You can put a line right through that one. Yeah. They dropped in class. They stretched out on November the 28th at Churchill. Won, got the lead. It was a nice victory. And actually, that was the best last out by your speed figure, that 69 in the field here. I do have some concerns just from a class standpoint, because when you're looking, the races that she was competitive in were both the 2 softest races, right? I can put a line through the race where she had some trouble, but I still wonder if she needed a little bit softer company to get the job done.
Yeah, dropping to get the win last time too, where they stretch her out and she just sort of gets loose on a slow pace, and that doesn't really thrill me either. Her 2 good races so far, the races where she was involved early, I feel like there's enough speed to her outside to compromise her chances. The one thing I will say too about the Keeneland race, she didn't break great, and then as soon as she got hit with kickback in that race, she just threw her head up. She stopped running, dropped out the back door there. She did not like that. So if they beat her to the lead this time, it could be real trouble for her too. The other thing too that I don't like about her, Gino, claimed away from Diodoro. I mean, that's not an easy thing to do either. Just too many things I didn't like about this horse.
One of the harder barns to move horses up off of. We moved to Evolution. She may be the quickest early on in here. I thought her last race was a fine third. She was in the Sandpiper Stakes. She stepped up in that stakes race off of a good win at Gulfstream Park. She made an early move to the lead in here. She opened up 3. She still had the lead in early stretch. She was just able to hold third. I mean, when you look at the horse who beat her that day, Sneaky Good is 2 for 2 for Brad Cox, would absolutely be favored in a race like this. And some of the other horses that she's faced, Lenny Lou is a multiple stakes winner, Group 2 placed. Willow Case, who she's actually beat, is a multiple stakes winner as well. I just think she's going to be part of the early pace. She's kind of tested. She's faced some pretty nice horses in here. I don't really know how good she is, but I know she's pretty quick. And if they don't push her early on and she gets a little bit of separation, I wonder if she can hang on in here and get the job done. So I feel like she's one of the horses in here that you can make a case for.
I agree. And a lot of to me, she was the toughest call in this race. I really didn't know what to do with her because she's fast, man. Her stakes races so far, they haven't been good. And I guess she ran fine last time. You could see in the replay video show, Sneaky Good's a pretty nice horse, but this horse was on fumes at the end of that race. Really, really tired. I just hated the early part of that race where her ride, I mean, I don't know why they didn't just let her go in that race.
She was like
She
three
took a
wide
huge
holding and
hold of her, like just under a big pull to keep her off the lead up the backstretch. I don't know why they did. They just let her go, see how far she can take you. And yeah, she's fast and she's dangerous. I just thought she was a really tough call because I don't love her form. I just like some of her races.
Prowess is the next one up, going to be moving into a new barn. Was a debut winner, then finished third in the second start at Ellis Park. The race at Kentucky and the Untappable, finished fifth, was okay. The last two races, they were definitely tougher spots. Like when you compare the horses that won those races,
Yeah.
Baraka and King Solver, if they were in this spot, they would be very, very tough. The concern I have is Prowess hasn't been showing very much early speed in her last couple races, having to come from way, way out of it. In this small field in this field going 6 furlongs where we're not sure if they're going to be lining up on the lead. I'm kind of curious about the trip that she'll get.
Yeah.
She's just a wild card in here. I'm kind of taking a wait and see approach with her.
Yeah, and she's just like my least favorite kind of horse to bet. Just because I think the thing to like about her, at least in my opinion, is that she's been facing better horses. I think that's really the only good thing I can say about her.
Right.
When she won her debut, that was like a super slow. It was all first time starters, a 8 horse field, super slow pace for a 5.5 furlong dirt sprint. They were going super slow, and she's right up there, and she holds on. Her 3 races since then on dirt, yeah, they're against better horses, but did she do anything in those races? I couldn't see it.
Now, just kind of grinding up finish most recently. We moved to the 4, Wakuda, and we're going to give a replay of Zia Park. They're making an appearance on the Daily Racing Form YouTube. We don't get to see our friends over at Zia all too much. But in this race, she had a good start. She backed off to sit second, about a length off. She made a 3-wide bid up at the top of the lane. And then a horse actually got through on the inside, and she had to deal with that horse who had an easier trip, and she was able to put her away at that challenge late. So I thought a pretty good performance. I could see her sitting a nice trip in here. That's now 2 in a row that she's ran well. She's going to go 3rd start of the form cycle. If you toss her turf races, then all of a sudden her whole body of work looks much, much better. She just feels like a top-tier contender here.
I agree. Yeah, I think it's kind of weird actually that Asmussen, switched her to turf a couple of times. I'm not really. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me, and she didn't run well in those races either. So I don't get that. But otherwise, everything you said is 100% correct. I think she's going to get a good trip in this race. She wasn't impressive winning either of her last 2 starts, but to me, it never looked like she was going to lose. I know her figure regressed in that race that we just watched there at Zia, but I don't know, man. I thought he rode her with a lot of confidence there. I just didn't feel like she was ever going to lose to that field, and she didn't.
Walk Away K is the next one up. She won her debut at Remington in a pretty impressive race visually. And then she faced Stakes Company in her second start at Oaklawn Park. She was 6th, about 3 lengths off. She makes a big 4-wide bid up to challenge for the lead. Just couldn't go on with Counting Stars. And that horse came back to win the year's end stakes just 2 weeks later on December the 27th with a 79 buyer. So she just may have just run into a horse who's a little bit better, who's in very nice form. I thought that was a fine effort from Walk Away K.
That's how I took it too. I thought she ran fine in that race. Made the move. County Stars was just better than she was and outfinished her through the final furlong. But there's no disgrace in that. If County Stars was in here, I would certainly like her in this race. So that was a good performance. I just really liked this filly's debut. You don't see too many 2-year-olds winning their debuts with a 5-wide move on the turn and then just keep going through the stretch.
Moving to Grace is Free. She flashed some speed from the outside most recently. She was in that very same Astral Spa behind Walk Away K. She finished 4th that day. I can't really get a sense of how good she is quite yet. Her debut win was at Canterbury. Then she faced the boys in her second start. And then in her third start, she was part of the early pace. So I think I need to see a couple more from her to kind of know where she really stacks up.
Yeah, me too. I'm just not convinced by her. I mean, if you wanted to dress her up to me and say in the Astral Spa, she was contesting the pace the entire way while the 1-2 finishers just sort of sat back and then came for her in the stretch. I guess that's true. I still didn't think that she ran that well.
Woodstock rounds out the field. It's worth mentioning that she is cross-entered in a race on Thursday at Oaklawn Park, so keep an eye on that. You may see her show up there. Her most recent form, I had to ask some questions because she crushes a field at Remington Park by 10. She comes back in the Myrtlewood at Keeneland, and she's a really solid third, right behind On Time Girl. And then in the race at Churchill Downs, On Time Girl wins that race, and she's nowhere to be found. She can't take the step forward with On Time Girl. Now, this is probably a softer spot than what she's been facing in her last couple. And then I kind of went back and forth because her wins came at Indy in the slop and at Remington by 10. So does she need a little bit softer company maybe to beat up on? I went back and forth. I think I ended up using her in the underneath spots, but I could actually see her sitting a pretty good trip from the outside. And if she does have one of those races 2 and 3 starts back, I mean, that puts her right in the mix with this group.
Agree with all that stuff. I also just sort of felt like if she does run here, she probably takes some money in this race. I don't know how short I'd be willing to go on her. She didn't run well last time, but any one of her prior 3 dirt starts, they just make her a contender in here.
Let's move to selections for the Mockingbird. And don't forget, Sunday race of the day, free past performances on the website. I think we have the same exact 4, Mike, just in a slightly different order. Yeah. You went with the Walk Away K, who was a very impressive debut winner and a good runner-up last out.
Yeah, this is a really, really tough race. I definitely want to wait and see how they bet this thing because I have no real sense of that either, and I don't want a short price on anybody in this race. Hopefully Walk Away K can be a playable price in here because I like both of her starts. I think she fits really well in here.
5-4-7-2 for Mike, 2-4-5-7 for me. Evolution on top. I hope they just get aggressive early on. I think she's naturally the quickest. If she breaks alertly, just use that speed. Try to get some separation there with Evolution. Best of luck to you, whoever you play, however you play them.